Good evening, friends, and welcome to Sleepytime Tales, a sleep aid podcast aimed at helping you to get a good night's sleep. Do you find your mind plagued with the stresses of modern life, especially when the lights are out and you're trying to get a restful night? Do you find your mind spinning and churning? Follow my voice down the path towards a good night's rest. Listen to me tell a story that will keep your mind from wandering to your daytime problems. The ones that you can't solve right now and will be easy to solve well rested. Listen to my voice and allow yourself to drift, following the twists and turns, but slowly letting go and drifting into the deep night. This week I'd like to talk about Radio Public. They are an outlet for many excellent shows, and they do a lot of work to promote the medium of podcasts. They provide very good embedded players and a high-quality podcast app, which is available on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store for Android. It's a very good app which, besides helping you listen to your favorite podcasts, also makes discoverability quite a pleasure. It has a very good recommendation engine. And another reason to promote it is that it also does pay out to podcasts that get listeners on the app. So if anyone is listening and enjoying the show and isn't overly attached to a specific podcatcher of any particular type, I'd like to request that you try out Radio Public. What they do is they put an ad at the beginning and end of each episode, and then eventually some kind of money pays out if enough people listen. I have no control over the advertising that they use, so I'm also curious if anybody does use it, if they could provide me some feedback to see what sort of ads they are like. But obviously the main thing you're listening to the show for is to help you sleep. So if they're really loud and disturbing and unpleasant to listen to, and they're compromising how you sleep, please let me know, just so that I know whether or not to actually punt it, to push it on to you, the listener, and recommend it. Because the point here is to help you sleep, not keep you awake. Yeah, so I would humbly request that you try listening on the Radio Public app if you can, and if it's unpleasant for you, please let me know, and then, like I say, I'll stop recommending it to people. But for now, it's a good way to help contribute possibly to the running of the podcast. Other than that, obviously, I would like to request that you share as much as possible about the show on your social media. The best way to get the word out actually is just word of mouth, obviously. If you're on Twitter or Facebook, recommend to your friends and family. There's a lot of people out there who struggle to sleep, and maybe this can help them. In terms of social media, you can find the show on Twitter at Sleepytime Tales, and on Facebook at facebook.com/SleepyTimeTalesPodcast. I also have a website up for the show where you can find all the episodes, the occasional blog post, and also links to the various social media at Sleepytime. The website is sleepytimetales.net. I'd also like you to consider submitting questions and comments, anything you have to say, some kind of feedback. You can send that to the email contact@sleepytimetales.net, and I would really love to hear from listeners out there. I've had a few reviews on Facebook and on Apple Podcasts, which are much appreciated. Now, well, obviously the most important thing for a new podcast is to spread the word. If it's helping you, or you think it can help somebody else out there, please let them know. The second biggest thing actually would be, if you can, help a little bit towards contributing financially towards the running of the show. I'm out of pocket every month at the moment, and I would like to upgrade my equipment a little bit to improve the sound quality. So if my droning voice is helping you out a couple of nights a week, maybe you could help consider kicking a little bit of money into the tip jar on the website, or having a look at my Patreon. I'm not going to go into too many details about the Patreon on what's on offer. Feel free to go take a look at patreon.com/sleepytimetales. I've got a couple of different rewards levels, but I believe that the main thing is if you find this show helps you, and to the point that you feel like it would help me to continue, if you can, obviously, there's a lot of people out there asking for money these days, and if you aren't financially able, don't even worry about it. But if you do have a couple of extra dollars lying around, it could be helpful to me, help me do a bit of an equipment upgrade, and like I say, help cover costs. Like I said, there's the Patreon and the tip jar. I'm not going to, as I said, I'm also not going to go over too many of the details. There's some cool stuff up there, but the main thing is if you are getting help and feel like you'd like to contribute, that's pretty much the most important part, I believe. If, however, you don't have any money to spare to send directly my way, there are a couple of options as well that you can do to help support. I've already mentioned the Radio Public. If you can listen to it on that app, that would be really, really helpful. And then also the website has affiliate links to Amazon, and I'm going to looking at signing up for a few other programs fairly soon as well. Those link to mostly sleep aids and that sort of thing, mattresses, beds, pillows, the occasional spray or balm to help you get a restful night's sleep. So check those out, see if there's anything there that'll help you, and anything you buy through the links will kick a little bit of money my way at no extra cost to you. A reminder that the music in this episode and all episodes thus far is Un Désert by Kumiku. Their music is available on the Free Music Archive. I've linked their website and their Patreon in the show notes, as there's some very cool stuff there that they've released under various names, and I recommend checking them out. And a lot of it also is public domain that would be handy for anyone else who wants to use it for their own podcasts or YouTube shows or anything like that, so worth taking a look. So what exactly is Sleepytime Tales, and what is a sleep aid podcast? To answer your question, let me start with a common problem. Do you find that you lie awake at night with your mind spinning and your emotions in turmoil as you stare at the ceiling and sleep just not coming? Are you anxious with the facts and stresses of 21st century life? Do you wake up in the middle of the night and find yourself not quite able to doze back off? I'm here to help. My name is Dave, and I'm your narrator, here to talk you into a restful night. I'm someone who has struggled to sleep ever since I was a baby. My parents had sleepless nights with me for many years, and even once I got old enough not to bother them anymore, I always struggled to sleep. It was only in the last few years, actually around my mid-30s, that I discovered that droning male voices have a tendency to help me fall asleep. I used to listen to podcasts at night, ones I was interested in, and then I'd find myself waking up at the end. And then eventually I started listening to podcasts specifically for the purpose of sleeping. It was a while later that I discovered that there are podcasts out there aimed specifically at helping you to sleep. I found one or two that worked really well for me, and while I recommended them to other people, sometimes people didn't really enjoy the voices of the narrators. And I figured I've got a boring, deep, drony voice, so maybe I should give it a try and see how it works out. And here we are. Every episode starts out with this long introduction, as well as the promotional part, usually. The point of this is to explain the purpose of the show to new listeners, as well as provide an opportunity for longer-term listeners, people who have been with me for a while now, to prepare themselves for sleep. And those of you who have been here a while know now that now's the time to start getting your lights out and curl up into bed and make sure you're not too hot and not too cold, and make sure that your environment is comfortable. Those of you who are joining me and the other listeners tonight for the first time, the purpose here is our purpose is to help basically build a space together, a warm space, a nest for you to settle into to help you sleep. The idea is that you listen to me closely as I tell you tonight's story, that by listening, your mind gets a little bit more focused and doesn't spin out of control with stresses and worries. And that prevents you, which is the same sort of thing that prevents me many nights from having a restful night's sleep. Tonight we are getting to the culmination of the first season of Twin Peaks. It's the penultimate episode of the first season. Things are starting to build to a head. When I started doing Twin Peaks, I knew the show was weird, but I didn't realize actually sort of how violent and hectic it can be sometimes. So I sort of defang the story a little bit as I tell it, so prevent, I'm here to help you sleep, not keep you awake. So the plan is that the story doesn't disturb you. So I take some of the more disturbing parts out, but keep the interesting bits and make it sound not too interesting so that you, dear listener, fall asleep. Now, obviously, I'm hoping that you're asleep before I get to the end of the episode, but it is very important as well that you don't feel pressurized. If this is your first night with us, it may not work. Maybe it'll take a few nights for you to get into the habit of listening to my voice and trying to develop a habit of sleeping. My voice may be a bit strange to you. I may have an unusual accent, so it may also those things may also take a little bit getting used to. It's very important, though, that you try to relax. If you're new to the show and prone to late nights lying staring at the ceiling, it may take a while for this to work for you. So queue up a few episodes or run through the backlog, or heck, go for one and set a sleep timer. What I usually do with the sleep podcasts I listen to is I let them stream all night. I lie down in the dark with my earbuds in and I just let them run. Sometimes when I wake up at 3 a.m. they're still running and I just let the voices waft me back to sleep. Sometimes I wake up 30 minutes before my alarm goes. Usually I carry on listening and it still knocks me right back out. Let me tell you that 30 minutes is sometimes the most restful part of my night. There is something about allowing yourself to relax completely right before the alarm that just satisfies on a very deep level. And so you have the basic idea. You relax and you lie in the dark, and while you do that, I tell you a tale. So relax, dear listener, my nighttime friend who has elected to lie in the dark, listening to my voice. You'll always be safe with me. I'm here to help you relax, to improve your life in a small way, or maybe even not so small. People don't sleep very well these days, and it makes their lives harder. So I'm here to do my small part to help you in a big way, to help you to face tomorrow and the day after well rested and be better able to cope and process. It's very important, and I believe very strongly in the benefits of kindness. I want to be kind to you. I want to share kindness with you. I want you to be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up or rebuke yourself over not sleeping. Don't get tense if you just can't let go and go over the edge of sleep, even with me here in your ears. Frustration is one of the great enemies of a good night's sleep. The intention with this podcast is to short-circuit that frustration, to distract the feeling that we get when we blame ourselves for not being able to let go and drift into the dark. So take a breath and forgive the fact that you can't sleep, and let my voice wash over you and under you. Take another breath and imagine the warm darkness rising up, inviting you to sleep into a better life starting tomorrow. And if you can't let go, forgive yourself and try again tomorrow. If you've had a life of insomnia, sleep is something like an enemy, but it is not your enemy. It's a natural process that we have been pulled away from by stress and life and supposed progress, the sort of progress that shines bright lights in our eyes at all hours. I'm here to work with you, to create a safe space, a cocoon in which you can curl up and allow nature to take its course. So if you're still with me, thank you for staying. If you're already asleep, we'll chat again soon. And of course, you aren't hearing me, except maybe in a dream. Twin Peaks. Realization time. We open with a shot of the moon once again. It seems to be a bit of a popular opening for Twin Peaks episodes. This time it's about a half a moon, clearly lit and white and rather beautiful looking. We then cut to a view of the hotel, which is hiding in the mists. The Great Northern, looking very eerie and slightly creepy, but also rather beautiful, as the mists come off the waterfall. If you recall, the previous episode ended with Dale Cooper walking into his hotel room and finding a naked Audrey Horn lying in his bed. And we open this episode with him sitting on the edge of the bed. He says to Audrey that you're a high school girl and I'm an agent of the FBI. While she's scared of him asking her to leave and scared of rejection, as is quite common, he tells her that there are certain values that are special about being in the FBI. She asks him if she thinks she's beautiful, and he says to her she is very beautiful, she's intelligent, and she's desirable. She's something any man would want. But what she really needs is a friend, and he's willing to do that for her. One of the longer shots over the bed with the couple sitting, her naked wrapped in his covers on one end and him in his uniform on the other. Well, not a uniform, but then his FBI jacket. Something that had struck me that was quite interesting is there's a mounted hunting rifle on the wall. I'm presuming it's not a live rifle, but it's just for someone in a country that has gun culture, but they're not quite as ubiquitous. It's a little bit of a strange thing to have in a hotel room. Dale says to Audrey that he's going to go get a couple of malts and some fries, and he's going to come back and she can tell him about her troubles. Audrey tells that she's got a lot of troubles and telling him about them will take her all night. Cooper doesn't seem overly concerned about that. He says he'll be back soon. Audrey does say that she can't tell him all of her secrets. Cooper says that secrets are bad. She asks him if he has any, and he says no. She then tells him, looks mysterious, and says Laura had a lot of secrets. He looks at her seriously and says, finding those is part of my job. We cut to morning at the police station. Andy comes in looking very circumspect and looking worried. You see Lucy sitting, he walks up to Lucy sitting at her desk at the reception. He coughs slightly to let her know that he's coming. She calls him officer, and she sounds very distant. Andy's looking very upset at this, as he was before. We remember, obviously, they have some kind of relationship, but something has changed recently, and she's now been really distant to him. Something at this point that I noticed, I'm looking in the margins and trying to realize what this was. The name Caleb Deschanel. Caleb Deschanel was the director of this episode. He directed a few episodes of Twin Peaks. If I remember correctly, he's the father of the actresses Zoe and Emily Deschanel. Zoe Deschanel, obviously famous for The New Girl and a whole bunch of movies, and Emily Deschanel, who was in Bones, a real Hollywood family. That just an interesting little bit of trivia. Lucy is still, Andy's still trying to make conversation with Lucy, but she's looking really hostile to him. The phone rings and she answers. She looks pointedly at Andy and waiting for him to leave. He takes the hint eventually, and he goes. She said we realize now that it is a doctor phoning and giving Lucy some news. We don't know exactly what the news is, but she seems a little bit shaken about what she's being told. She politely thanks the person and puts the phone down. Cooper walks in looking surprisingly chipper. I don't know what he and Audrey spoke about all night. Or maybe they ended up not speaking all night, but it looked like they were in for a bit of a long one last we saw them. But he looks completely well rested and is very energetic. He asks Lucy how she's been because he heard she had a sick day the day before. She says that she's fine, thank you very much. The camera follows Cooper as he walks through the sheriff's office, goes into the conference room where we see Harry and the doctor. They're busy reading up about the needs and habits of minor birds. As the Waldo is in the cage there in the room, the doc is looking through a book and trying to feed the minor grapes, while Harry is looking on quite interested in the whole situation. We find out that Waldo is from a particular species of minor from Indonesia. It emerges from the book that the doc is reading that the minor birds are excellent mimics. As someone who's grown up in a country where minors are, they were initially actually an alien invasive species here, but they've basically naturalized and fitted into the local environment quite well. Every now and then someone finds a baby and keeps them, and that's uncommon, but they do learn to talk. They tend to mimic as part of a play. They'll only imitate things when they're happy. Waldo is not in good condition, so he's not in a playful mood, so won't be saying anything that he's heard anytime soon. The doc says these grapes are on the edge. They're about to be a bit overripe. So he asks Harry if there's any apples, and Apple says that there's in the refrigerator. Polk comes in with a forensic report from Jacques Renault's cabin. It emerges that there are traces of 3 people having been there: Laura, Renette Pulaski, and Leo Johnson. There was a photo in the camera that Hawke found, only one though. It was a photo of Waldo, which is what Harry pointed out, but then Dale pointed out, no, it's actually a picture of Laura. And on second glance, you can see that Waldo is sitting on Laura, I think on her shoulder or neck at some point. Remember, she's been bitten by the bird, she was bitten and scratched by the bird. Dale takes his dictaphone out of his pocket and he leaves it next to Waldo. It's a voice-acted dictaphone, so if Waldo starts talking, it will start recording. Now, obviously, we have a bit of a Chekhov's gun situation here. Even before going any further, this is obviously going to have an interesting payoff, because a voice-activated dictaphone in a room in the police station, people don't know it's there. Some interesting stuff can probably happen. They then take a look at the casino chip, the $1,000 rather, One-Eyed Jack's casino chip, with the chunk missing that was in Laura Palmer's stomach. Dale says that it's time for us to take a field trip out to One-Eyed Jack's. Now, One-Eyed Jack's is in Canada. Dale is an FBI agent, and the others are local cops, so obviously they don't have any jurisdiction in Canada. But Dale says, we'll do it undercover. We then go to the outside of the Johnson house. Leo is sitting outside watching it through binoculars, and he sees Bobby arriving. He takes out a hunting rifle with a telescopic sight, waiting for Bobby to come back out. Shelley has let Bobby in, and she's very upset over shooting Leo. She only shot him once, it looked like in the shoulder. She's very scared of what's going to happen, though. She thinks he's going to come back after her. And with what we know about Leo, that's entirely possible. Bobby tells Shelley that she mustn't worry because he will deal with Leo and James. Now, I know he's not happy about Laura cheating on him with the biker boy, but lumping James in with Leo Johnson seems a little bit rash and slightly overboard. I just glanced back, and the one thing I missed was Dale said that the trip to One-Eyed Jack's sounds like a job for the Boathouse Boys, rather than themselves as law enforcement agents. We go back, jumping back ahead. Leo is looking through his scope at his own house, waiting for Bobby to poke his head out, and then a radio behind him makes a noise. It seems to be sharing a frequency with the police radio, because he hears Lucy telling somebody about the witness to Laura Palmer's murder, which is a talking bird. Leo is very alarmed. He throws his rifle in, he jumps in his truck, his pickup truck, not his big truck, and he drives off. we have the interior of a house. A lot of these houses are rather similar looking, but it seems to be the Palmer house. There's a slow pan from a piano up to a vase, and then through a doorway to the dining room table. And Maddie is sitting playing a tape with Donna and James there. They're listening to one of the tapes that Laura made as a sort of journal for her therapy. Laura is very flirtatious on the tapes with Dr. Jacoby. She starts out with, "What's up, Doc?" And she mentions she's had some dreams. She says that she knows Dr. Jacoby likes her, but she'll keep that a secret, like she will keep his coconut a secret. Now we've seen that Jacoby hides interesting little treasures in a coconut, including some tapes from Laura, if I recall, as well as the broken off half heart pendant that James had in his possession previously. Laura says that she finds it very easy to make men like her, although she doesn't particularly like any of them. James walks up and switches off the tape, looking quite upset. Maddie thinks that it's possible that Jacoby did it, although they don't look too certain about that, but they look pretty convinced. James wants to search Jacoby's office for more of the tapes. They ask how to do it, and James says that they're going to give him a reason to leave his office and suggest that Maddie could pose as Laura to flush him out. We're now at the exterior of the Horn's department store, and we go inside, where we see Audrey is working at the perfume counter. She doesn't seem to be particularly good at customer service. She's not very friendly to the lady that's there looking for help. The lady wants a fruity aroma scent, and Audrey is suggesting something foresty smelling. The manager, don't remember his name, the creepy man that she pretended was harassing her, comes up to the other young lady working at the counter and asks her to come see him in 5 minutes. The lady stomps off, and the old lady stomps off in a bad mood because Audrey's been rude to her and not very helpful. She sneaks off, tells the lady that she's working with that she's going to the little girl's room. She goes to the office where there's a man doing, looks like a sort of assistant or male secretary sort of thing. Unusual for the 80s, but who knows. Stacking shelves at the office. She tells him that it sounds like there's been some kind of accident outside, and he runs off in curiosity. She walks into the department store manager's office, takes a cigarette out of a box, lights it, and then goes and hides in the closet. The manager comes in with the other girl from the perfume counter. He gives her a little wrapped gift. It's a little unicorn. He makes a comment about unicorns are entranced by the innocent sort of thing. And then we find out that she worked at, he mentions a club. She worked at a club last week and she did very well. Looks like he's recruiting for One-Eyed Jacks. She seems up for it to work as a hostess or something, or barmaid or waitress, or a escort who sees to VIP's needs if she's up for it and if she's chosen. She seems pretty much up for it. He tells her, let's go to evening wear where we'll get you a beautiful gown. And obviously, yeah, no, this dude's gross. He's completely pimping this girl out. Audrey comes out of, well, the manager leaves with the girl Jen. Audrey comes out, digs in the manager's drawer and finds a book with a list of girls' names, including Jenny, the new girl, and Renette Pulaski, as mentioned previously as well. She then also steals the unicorn, the little crystal unicorn that's been left on the desk. Jenny didn't seem particularly attached to it. We now go to the diner. Norma walks in. She sees Hank chatting to Shelley. Looks like a very friendly chat. Hank is quite the charmer when he's in the mood. But he's fishing about Big Ed having been hanging around while he was in prison. When Shelley walks off, Hank takes a look and there's a place sitting there where someone was sitting and eating and they've left a lighter, so he sneaks that into his pocket. Harry and Dale come into the diner. They're looking for Hank. Harry's a little bit aggressive with Hank, telling him that he must make sure he reports to his parole officer and keeps his nose clean. Harry doesn't seem particularly friendly with Hank and doesn't think that people can change. Shelley comes up and she offers Dale and Harry some coffee. Dale says yes, but Harry says we should be getting along. Dale gives Harry a bit of a speech about he needs to give himself a small present every day, whether it's a nice shirt or tie, or sometimes just taking a minute to have a good cup of coffee. So they sit down and they drink their coffee. Back at the department store, Audrey pretends to Jenny that she has also been asked to work at the club. She gets Jenny to give her the phone number for Black Rose, who at first I thought maybe I'd gotten mixed up and there was a different club besides One Eye Jack, but then I remember the lady who wears black who works at One Eye Jack's. I presume her full name is Black Rose. We know as Blackie. So she calls and sets up an appointment to go to One Eye Jack's that night. We go to Ed and Nadine's house where Nadine is watching Invitation to Love. Quite a dramatic event happening there as the nerdy man who was being hit on in a previous episode by a really beautiful woman shoots someone, and Nadine says, "You show him." Ed comes in. Nadine is looking a little bit upset. She says she's eating bonbons. He sits down with her and he says that it's not that bad. We learn now that the meeting at the patent attorney did not go well. He doesn't believe there's a market for grease-covered, cotton ball-covered drape runners. Ed says, bless him, is actually trying to be really supportive. Now he and Norma have decided they're going to commit to their relationships that they're in. He really does want to support Nadine, and he's trying to be supportive, but she's very upset, although she does also appreciate his attention. Now we're at the Martell house. We see Harry looking at a bass trophy. It's looking quite a nice looking fish, although not that huge. He and Pete are chatting about it. Pete says it looked a lot larger before they hollowed it out to make a trophy from it. But Harry's being supportive and saying it's still a rather magnificent trophy. Josie comes in and sees Harry. She's a little bit surprised because she wasn't expecting him. And they sort of get a little friendly, but he asks her why she was at the motel the previous day. At first she denies it, but then he tells her that Hawk saw her there. So she admits to following Ben and Catherine because she was trying to get evidence, because Harry wanted evidence to try to do something about Ben and Catherine's shenanigans. So she was trying to find proof for him, because she heard Catherine talking on the phone about setting a fire at the mill, and she's very scared and concerned about her future. Obviously, if she's going to be alive for much longer. Harry promises her, though, that he won't let anything happen. We go back to the Great Northern Hotel. Dale is looking very dapper in a very well-fitted tuxedo. He walks out to Ed and Harry, who look a little bit stunned at how good he looks and how fancy he's dressed. Ed's looking more like a used car salesman with a bolo tie and a bright red shirt. Also not quite a nice looking jacket though. Harry's just looking like himself. They have a little bit of a chat about gambling. Ed's not a big gambler. He's never been lucky. Dale says, well, tonight that's going to change. We're going to give you a little bit of luck. He's got $10,000 from the FBI, and he gives Ed a few hundred, And Ed's quite excited. He says, okay, I'm going to go wait outside. Harry wants to have a chat to you. So he goes off. Harry and Dale have a chat about Josie's concerns about Catherine and Ben's, what they're getting up to. Harry tells Dale about what Josie's worried about and the situation at the sawmill. I don't remember if it was explicitly spelled out before, but basically Ben wants the land the sawmill's on for the property development that he's trying to get foreign investment in. Dale wants to know how well Harry knows Josie. He's concerned that she's got some secrets that maybe Harry doesn't know about. Harry says he knows enough about her because he loves her and he believes her, and so Dale accepts that. Harry tells Dale that Hawke is outside in the brand new Cadillac, and they're going to be, Dale tells Harry that they're going to be posing as dental surgeons out on the town. Oral surgeons, rather. Audrey comes out of a side room. She's looking for Dale. She's just missed him. She picks up the phone and calls the desks and asks if Dale had been in and if her message was delivered. And she leaves a message again to get hold of her urgently because she's got news for him. But yeah, he's off on his own adventure. Back again to the Martell house. A tall, balding man is having a meeting with Catherine. We find out that he's an insurance agent. He's there to get her signature on a new policy that was taken out, that when Catherine picks up the paperwork, she is quite surprised to see there's $1 million policy on her name with Josie Packard as the beneficiary. However, there was a mess-up and there was no signature in her section. Obviously, she didn't know anything about the insurance policy, so she's quite alarmed about this whole situation. I've seen enough true crime shows to know that insurance policies that people don't know about are, generally speaking, bad news. The insurance agent thought that it was a bit strange that for a policy that size that he hadn't met with Catherine, but he mentioned that Ben had insisted that he was going to help, and he said he was going to collect everybody's signatures. Ben got sloppy and forgot about getting Catherine's signatures on the policy for her own life. She takes a look and she says that she's bluffing like a champion. She says that she asked her lawyer to make some changes and she can see that they weren't made, so she needs to have a meeting with him the next morning. The policy was supposed to kick in at midnight on this night where she's met the agent for the first time. So this is already throwing a spanner in Ben's plans, whatever he's up to. We can see that she's a little bit upset, and after the agent leaves, she goes through to her bedroom, looks in the bottom of her double drawer, and finds that the cooked ledger with the actual real books for them all has disappeared. Well, rather, it's the ledger that's not cooked. This scene's a little bit of a non sequitur, or I missed some details. We're back at the Great Northern Hotel. Audrey is walking through the hotel and she sees an Asian man who nods politely to her. We go back again to the sheriff's office, where Dale has a case of a wig and a case of moustaches, and for Ed to wear as a disguise, and Dale is busy being wired by Hawke for sound. We see in the one boardroom where, as usual, there's the pile of donuts, Lucy's usual magnificent display of really tasty looking donuts. Every time I watch an episode of Twin Peaks, I die for donuts afterwards. I need to start learning to make them. We see the minor bird, Waldo, starts talking, keeps calling out Laura's name. The camera pans to a picture in the room, and suddenly the glass in the picture shatters, or rather other glass sprays across it. We then see Leo running away with his rifle. He shot the bird. There's blood all over the donuts, and Dale and Hawke and Ed come running in to see blood all over the donuts and the remains of the poor bird. Lots of feathers everywhere. Dale picks up the dictaphone and runs through it backwards and forwards a few times. We hear Lucy trying to feed it and being friendly to it. And we hear some rather disturbing stuff. The Manor apparently did hear what happened to Laura and mentions Leo Johnson's name. I'm not going to go into too much details because, as I've said at the beginning of the show, I don't want to go into too much disturbing stuff because I'm trying to help you sleep, not keep you awake. We go now to One-Eyed Jacks. Dale and Big Ed walk in. The lady we've seen before introduces herself as Blackie. She must be Black Rose. She thinks that Ed is a cop, but she doesn't think that Dale is a cop, which is, of course, funny because Dale is the cop and Ed is just like some random, large, scary-looking dude. Dale introduces themselves as Fred and Barney. Ed, who's posing as Fred, lets slip that he owns a garage, but he recovers quite well and mentions that he's an oral surgeon. Blackie and he flirt quite vigorously, with a whole bunch of double entendres involving dental mechanics and meaningful glances and emphases. It was actually quite a well done job, to be honest. When Blackie walks away, Dale says that he's quite impressed with Eddie's work. They walk past a couple of hostesses standing there dressed like playing cards, like something out of Alice in Wonderland, or a rather burlesque version of Alice in Wonderland. Dale mentions in his wrist microphone to Hawk that they're in the casino room. There's no sign of Jacques Renault, and they're going to go gambling. He sends Big Ed off to go play craps, and he goes to play blackjack. We now go to the Palmer house, where Maddie is leaving in the dark. She sneaks out, and we see Leland lurking in the sitting room, sitting on the couch in the dark. He basically watches her leave, and then he just carries on sitting there. Maddie and Donna arrived at the gazebo where James is waiting. Maddie gets out wearing a blonde wig and some of Laura's clothing, and James gets rather astonished at the similarity. Donna gets out of the car. She's holding a camera. And a whole lot of meaningful looks between the three of them. We go back to the Great Northern Hotel where the Icelanders are with Jerry and they're singing 50 bottles of beer on the wall. Ben is singing along and he says that they need to teach him some of their wonderful drinking songs. Of course, there's 50 bottles of beer on the wall. That's pretty much the whole song. He suggests that they should go out. I can't remember how he gets them out of the room. He asks Jerry when they are planning on signing. Jerry says they want to finalize the deal at One-Eyed Jack's, which Jerry had told them about, and they like the sound of it. Ben tells them to get the van, and they're going to go off. He picks up the phone and he calls Josie. He asks, is she there? Obviously referring to Catherine, because he's playing both sides here. She says no, she's gone out. Josie needs to try to get Catherine to the mall because they are going to do it tonight. Obviously, we know there's big plans going on. The camera pans across slightly and we see that there's someone standing next to Josie. Someone in a black leather jacket. We haven't seen Harry in a while, so at first I thought maybe it was him who was there, but the camera pans out, the person turns around and we see that it is actually Hank. He smiles at her, she looks worried. We now go to Audrey walking in to see Blackie at the One-Eyed Jack's. She's posing as an experienced working girl called Esther from Canada, but she mentions a place that she's from, that she worked, and Blackie pulls the old, oh, does this person, I think she used the name Behemoth, still run the place? Audrey said yes, and Blackie said no, Behemoth's my dog, so you never worked there. She asks why she should hire her, and she pulls the old cherry stem trick, tying it with your tongue, so Blackie hires her on the spot. Dale's busy playing blackjack and unsurprisingly doing well. Ed comes up after having lost at craps. I can tell you that will happen. There's a chance of winning at blackjack. Craps is really pure, you shouldn't play that game. Jacques Renault comes and takes over as the dealer on the blackjack table, where Dale gets Ed to sit down with him and play. We then go to Dr. Jacoby, who is in his office watching Invitation to Love. He's drinking a umbrella drink First I thought it was a Mai Tai, but then I realized it's a little bit too orange, so maybe it's a Sex on the Beach. And it's got a pineapple and an umbrella in it. Looks quite appealing. I haven't had a good cocktail in more than a year. I suddenly feel like this show is making me feel like donuts and cocktails not very good for your health. The phone rings and he answers it, and it's Maddie, who pretends to be Laura. She's using lines from the tape that they listen to. She says, "What's up, Doc? I feel like I'm in a dream." He doesn't believe that it's Laura at first. He says, "You're not Laura." I mean, obviously he knows she's dead. So she tells him to go to the door. He pulls a revolver out of his desk drawer. Something watching a show this age you don't see on TV shows anymore is really tiny guns. The show's got a lot of really small revolvers, and generally speaking, TV shows these days are like giant automatics. Just like a random observation. He goes out. There's nobody there, but there is an envelope on his doorstep. He takes it in, opens it up. It's a cassette tape that he puts in, and then there's footage of Maddie, obviously, but she's dressed as Laura, wearing a blonde wig, holding the current day's newspaper. So obviously, it's a current footage. He goes back to the phone. She tells him where they're going to meet, and she will be there in 10 minutes. Maddie, it's actually quite interesting watching how differently Maddie talks to how Laura talks to Jacoby on the phone. Like, Laura is like this little ingenue, and Maddie is a young woman who talks like an sort of adult, which is, quite remarkable how line delivery makes a difference with actors. Because again, remember, these are the same actress who plays the two parts. Bobby is creeping around in the bushes watching Donna, James, and Maddie. I don't think he can make out that Maddie looks exactly like Laura at this point. After Donna and James leave on James's motorcycle, leaving Maddie with the car, Bobby sneaks out and follows them. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if he thought he saw her, he would realize that she looked like Laura, so he would realize something's up. Jacoby watches the tape again. He sees that the gazebo's in the background, and he heads out to go that way. Donna and James arrive outside the office. They're outside the office when he leaves, so they sneak in. Bobby's there as well, so he sneaks up to James's motorcycle. He opens the gas tank and he drops in a plastic bag, which looks like it's full of drugs. He mumbles, "Say goodbye, James." We cut again to the view of Maddie standing by the gazebo, but there's a creepy sense that she is being watched from the trees. It's like a viewpoint of someone hanging around in the bushes there. And then we cut to credits. Thanks again for joining me in this episode of the Sleepytime Tales podcast, the sleep aid podcast designed around a bedtime story to help you get a restful night. New episodes will be released every Sunday night to give you something fresh to help you rest in a new week. But make sure to subscribe in whatever service you use so that you get new episodes whenever they come out. A reminder that the music for tonight is Undeser Bakumiku. Check out more of their work on their website and their Patreon, which you'll find linked in the show notes. Good night and sweet dreams.